Hello and welcome back to the Grassroots Hotline. Today's guest has done just about everything you can do in grassroots football. So much so that I'm going to have to read this intro because there are so many things that Greg has done in grassroots football. I'm scared of missing one out. So he's founded and runs a club and has done for 15 years, refereed, helped run a league, appointed referees to fixtures week in, week out, spent over 6 years at Cheshire FA, rose to the deputy CEO position there, and now is the CEO of the Independent Schools Football Association. Have I missed anything?
No, spot on.
Fantastic.
Thank you.
Very few people have worn as many hats in grassroots football as our guest today, Greg McLean. Thank you very much for joining us today, Greg.
Pleasure. Thank you for having me.
So we're going to get into all of your roles that you've had in grassroots football and, of course, what you're doing at the moment. But to begin with, let's take it back to the start. How did you get into grassroots football?
Yeah, I think going back, my first love of football was probably the minute I could stand up. I think the first toy that I loved as a kid was a hairdryer, but for some reason my dad was keen to get me away from that and get me into football. So the minute I could stand up, I had a football at my feet, and I think that was the start of just getting into football, really. And I think as I went through, I think I remember the first bit of football that I watched was the 1998 World Cup, Michael Owen's goal against Argentina, and that sort of really stands out as like the first football memory for me. And I remember going to my first Liverpool game in 1999 with my dad, and yeah, just absolutely loved it the minute you walk into the stadium and feel the effect of the ground and the atmosphere and everything else. So that got me in love with football, and then pretty much as soon as I was able to play, that was definitely something that I wanted to do. So I was able to start playing around the age of 9, 10 for a team.
What were they called?
So initially it was Port Rush, and then we changed into being Signet Youth. We weren't the best team, shall we say. Average defeat of probably 10-0 every week.
Your fault, yeah?
Yeah, probably contributed quite a lot. I was playing up front back then in the old-fashioned 4-4-2, hit the big man.
Yeah.
I wasn't the big man. I was playing alongside the big man. And then it was basically just hit and run football on an 11-a-side pitch when you were tiny, and I think that's probably one of the reasons why it's so refreshing to see now we've got the smaller formats for different age groups, and the importance of that in terms of football development, because certainly when I started playing it wasn't about that. So that's
development.
No.
Yeah.
Can I tap on that for a second, actually? Because I speak to a lot of people and they talk about 3v3, which is coming in, and how they may not do it for lots of different reasons, like lack of facilities, or it's just difficult to coach, or whatever it may be. And so they're planning on playing them up a year so they can still just do the 5v5, which they used to. What are your thoughts on the 3v3? Because I think it's really good, right? You get kids playing football, they're kind of passing it around, they get to develop themselves, and it's even less pressure because there's fewer players on a pitch.
Yeah, for me, it should all be about the children, what they want. Yeah. Quite often, these decisions to say, we're going to just play 5v5, we're going to play up, they're being made by the adults with no consultation or asking the children what they want. The reason 3v3 has been brought in is to get more touches on the ball, to enhance, that skill level at that age group. So for me, the 3v3 is crucial to that development stage. So the more we can make that accessible to young people, the better, really. I think it's a really positive step.
I agree. I think the pushback has always been that when the case studies were done in other countries, they're looking at countries where every square that you go into has like a football pitch bang in the middle of it, which is great, obviously. And we don't necessarily have that in this country. But I'm not sure that's true, because the amount of investment that goes into facilities is like way beyond anywhere else. Schools, anywhere you go nowadays, there's like a 3G pitch either that's there or is coming up. But do you think that's part of the issue, is the pressure that may put on facilities, or do you think that's more of an excuse?
I would say it's probably more of an excuse in a sense. I think that there's ways that you can make 3v3 accessible with the facilities that you have. Yeah. It doesn't have to be, a line marked pitch. You can make adaptations, particularly at that age group, to make it possible to do. I suppose it would probably be worthwhile, from a league perspective, just trying it. have some trial sessions potentially in the summer and see how it works operationally, because I understand the challenges of the practical elements of bringing it together on a match day, but the foundation of everything we do should be about the participants and getting the most out of the game.
Back then, when you started playing, you obviously mentioned that the scorelines weren't great. It does feel at least that development has come to the fore in terms of the thinking of like the regional, national bodies, in terms of like results aren't published at younger levels, and it's a bit more focus on development. Is that would you resonate with that? Did it feel back then that there was maybe a bit too much pressure on kids?
Yeah, it was a bit. Yeah, it was very full on. I would say that probably the standard of coaching has significantly improved as well. I mean, talking when I was playing very first off was about 25 years ago. So yeah, it's definitely improved, and you can see that the messages that the FA are trying to relay within coach development across the country is definitely coming through. The standard of grassroots coaching is going up. Obviously trying to make courses more accessible to people, more flexible in terms of online learning as well as face-to-face. I think those things are really important. I think the emphasis on that competitive element, it's right to bring it in, but bringing it in at the right age is really important, because we don't want to turn people away from the game at a young age because it becomes too competitive and they feel, well, we're just getting beat every week, what's the point? It's about more than that. Football is about more than results. It's about community.
That attitude seeps into the parents' behaviour as well, doesn't it? Because even if the kids don't feel the pressure for the results, no parents wants to see their kid getting beaten every week, and then they might get a bit more agitated, and that spills over, doesn't it?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. I think creating a fun environment for young people to enjoy the game is absolutely got to be the first priority.
Now, most people don't start their own club until at least their mid-20s, but 15-year-old Greg saw a bit otherwise. Yeah. So tell me about that, because you did that with your dad.
Yeah, so we did that for 2 years. It was basically a team we set up called Brookvale. It was about just creating a team for me and my schoolmates to play. Quite a few of us didn't have a team, so we just thought, should we just give it a go and see how it goes? Obviously, we were playing against teams who had a lot of experience, have been playing together probably 5-6 years. So again, the scorelines weren't great. We were averaging probably 10-0 defeats. We kept coming back week in, week out. My dad was the manager, and I think one of the things that was noticeable in that sort of 2 years that we ran that team was, as a team, we definitely improved through the coaching that we got from my dad and his mates, Steve and Chris, and I think we all enjoyed it. We all had a laugh. We didn't take ourselves too seriously, but again, that goes back to that point about it's about enjoyment and the social side that we got out of that. We'll always have those memories, and by the end, we were losing games 2-1 as opposed to 10-0. So yeah, there was an improvement in that sense.
Can you tell me a little bit about your dad and grassroots football, because that's obviously how it all starts. Like when you're young, you are sort of, if you've got a parent who likes football, I can imagine myself hopefully one day being the same, you want to get your kid into football as well. What was your dad like?
Yeah, he was always a very fair manager. There was none of this nepotism and bias from him towards me. I only took the penalties and was captain, but other than that, didn't take the corners or the throw-ins. No, but I think he was always fair, and I think the lads all enjoyed playing for him. Still in touch with quite a few of the lads, from down the years, and that sort of gave us the confidence then a couple of years later to set up our next venture, which was really exciting as well.
So what was that then?
So that came about through when I finished my A-levels. Wasn't really sure what I wanted to do. I got the opportunity to do some work experience in the school that I went to, St Margaret's Academy, and then sort of ended up being offered a permanent contract. So I was working there, and one of the things they didn't have was a former students team, and quite a lot of schools had those at the time. So we had a little look into it, and it was one of those things. It was like, well, we've got a history of having really good players. We were a good school football-wise nationally, so why not sort of maybe have a look at setting up a team? So we set up St Margaret's Old Boys in 2011, and it was a really exciting time. The County FA, Liverpool County FA at the time, had just launched an under-21 league, which was a trial based on trying to stop the dropouts from sort of 18 to 21 into open age. So it was a good idea, I felt, and we had a strong league of 12 teams. Again, it was all former students or current students of the school, which was great. And yeah, it's sort of managed to keep that going for 15 years so far, which has been great.
And you're still involved?
Yeah, so I set it up as secretary. My dad was the manager. Over the years, we've had different priorities and had to step away and come back in terms of the management side. My dad stepped down as manager in 2020. He'd managed the team for 9 years and done a brilliant job.
At least you didn't back in.
No, exactly. Yeah, I mean that would have been an awkward conversation, wouldn't it? But no, we'd won a Division 2 league title in 2018, which was our first trophy together, which was special from our perspective. And then I took over managing the team for a couple of years.
Did results go up or down?
Leveled off. Should we go in the middle? They leveled off. And then just due to work commitments, I couldn't commit to managing the team. So we actually got a couple of our senior players to take over. So again, wanted to give the opportunity to some younger coaches to give them a chance to have a go at that management side. So a couple of lads, Tom, and supported by Andy, they took over and had a brilliant season. Got to a cup final. Finished in the top 4 of the league, which was the top division of our league at the time. Did a really good job. And then due to family commitments, Tom stepped aside. So then Andy stepped in. And we probably had our most memorable season as a club at that point in 2023. We won the Liverpool County FA Junior Cup final. And then 5 days later, we won the League Cup final, beating the league title winners 4-1 in a packed stadium at McLean, which was a brilliant experience, and always be indebted to Andy as the manager for his bringing those 2 trophies home, because that was just an unbelievable experience.
So there'll be a lot of club secretaries and club committee members listening to this, and one thing that we bang on about is how big a job it is to be a grassroots football volunteer. Now, I'm not saying you're evidence to the contrary. Sure it is. But you managed to do it whilst wearing all these other hats as well and all these other commitments. I'm just wondering whether you have any advice or anything that you've learnt that would be beneficial to anyone on a grassroots football committee and just feeling like they're drowning in stuff to do.
Yeah, I think one of the challenges I probably faced certainly early on was trying to do everything myself. And I think you do have to reach that point where you do ask for help, and you do learn to delegate some tasks and get other people involved who've got skill sets that can assist you. It's really important particularly from a club perspective, to have people with the right values and the same values as you around you. We were very lucky, me and my dad, to have a guy called Reg who joined us just a year after we started, and his son played for the team. And Reg was an incredible man, and we were all just on the same page. Reg would look after welfare, first aid, all that side of things. Then I'd obviously run the admin side. My dad would run the football side, and it was just really cohesive in how we did things. And we built a really strong relationship over that sort of 10, 15 year period. And so I would say that I think the key is be willing to ask for help, and also it's important to have the right people around you.
Yeah. I mean, do you think that you've seen it from both sides? You've seen it from the County FA side, so like professionals, like from your point of view as a professional rather than a volunteer, but also from the voluntary side. Like, do you think more can be done to support volunteers within clubs?
100%. I think one of the key ambitions for us when I was working at Cheshire FA, and we're doing actually similar work with this for now in my new role, is about recognising and rewarding the incredible work that volunteers do. I'd spend many an hour on the phone at Cheshire FA with grassroots volunteers who'd be talking about some of the problems they faced, and I think it helps from my perspective working there, having that empathy of being a grassroots volunteer to be able to share that experience, whether that be a technical issue with a system, or whether that be a scenario that they're facing with a parent or with a player. And I think having that empathy for the stakeholders that we served was really important, and it built strong relationships. And as a county FA, we were really proud of that. But yeah, I think recognition and reward is a big one, giving people a platform. Obviously, the work you guys are doing on this podcast is really great to see, because it's nice to be able to hear those stories of those people who do so much brilliant work.
Fantastic, yeah. If you've got anyone in mind as well,
It's a nice little plug.
I'll have a look through my black book.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. So, if you Google Greg McLean, grassroots football, in amongst all of your professional achievements, one thing that comes up is a couple of articles from, I think, about 2018 time, where you spoke to BBC, Sky Sports around the Rainbow Laces campaign and your personal story. Would you mind just telling us a little bit about that and what the reaction was like to that?
Of course. So I've sort of been on my own coming out journey during my lifetime. It started with quite, a difficult situation, not necessarily knowing my own sexuality and the confusion that comes with that, particularly in your teenage years. Education didn't necessarily help at that point, because I wouldn't say the curriculum was built for talking about same-sex relationships and all the rest of it. So it did lead to some challenging thoughts. And I think as I got into my adult life, and I'll always be indebted to my old boss at the time in the school called Jeff, who was very open and supportive of me. He was the first person I came out to. And that sort of one conversation that I had made such a difference in my life, of just a weight being lifted off my shoulders, being comfortable around one person to be my authentic self. And that then sort of led to me eventually building the confidence to tell family and friends and colleagues, etc. And with the football side, it was always a nagging concern in the back of my mind of what would the reaction be of my team. Is that going to be a problem for people? Because you are always worrying about, what people think. And I remember I just reached a point where I was like, right, I'm going to have to tell them at some point. I'm going to do it now. And I remember I was driving somewhere and I just pulled the car over, and I just texted each of them individually.
Just in that moment, you just thought,
I need to do it now. Yeah. It was the right time. It just felt like it was the thing to do. So I sent them all a text message individually and explained, my situation. And I suppose, I don't really know what I expected to get back, to be honest. I don't think I expected a load of abuse, but it was one of them where, well, what's the reception going to be? So when I got some text messages back and it was like, absolutely made up for you, absolutely no issue for us at all that sort of thing was just a bit of a shock to the system, but it was also really heartwarming from my perspective to know that it wasn't going to change anything. People's respect for me was still the same. So when the opportunity came to speak about the Rainbow Laces campaign, it was something that was really close to my heart for obvious reasons. And from my perspective, because of that one conversation I'd had with my old boss, Jeff, I almost felt like, well, if I can share my story and I can help one person, that could go a really long way to someone potentially coming out to their teammates and being a part of their community and being themselves. So it was a really big sort of moment in my life, which I'm really proud and honoured that I was asked to do it by both Sky and BBC. And I hope that it did help someone out there. I did get some nice messages on the back of it to say, it's really refreshing to see someone speak so honestly about their story. So hopefully it did have the impact that I wanted.
Do you think the football environment's improved over time? Because I look at it now, and obviously not going through the personal journey myself, but seeing even just the flippant comments that people would make when they're younger and a bit more immature, which nowadays don't seem to happen anywhere near as much. And I think that's amazing because you're right, some other people that I've spoken to, it's the fear of the unknown of other people's reaction to it rather than them being scared of saying anything themselves necessarily.
Yeah.
And I think that's why I asked the question around that environment. I don't know if you've, obviously because you wore so many hats and now you're working with children as well.
Yeah.
I guess also in your previous role, like you were deputy safeguarding officer as well. You'll have seen it from different perspectives.
Yeah. I think the environment has definitely changed for the better. 100%. I think whilst the Rainbow Laces campaign has had mixed press in recent years, the foundation of where that came from and the importance of it was huge in terms of visibility and awareness. We're never going to solve the entire issues of society through one campaign. However, that campaign absolutely helped people, and it helped me personally. And I think just having allies from outside of the LGBT community is a real statement. And I know there's been a number of professional players and match officials who've supported the campaign, and it really does go a long way, because we know, if Ronaldo gets the latest pair of boots, or everyone wants to have those latest pair of boots. So we know that those role models have a part to play. But I'd definitely say the environment has improved, and hopefully it will keep going in that direction.
How much of a difference did it make to your life and your sort of how you felt at football when you could no longer have to bottle up, not your feelings, but who you were as a person, and feel like you're putting on a bit of an act?
Yeah, it was a strange one, because I think you sort of go through that period, particularly that period of my life, where it was almost like you were set for an argument with somebody every time you had to have that conversation, almost like, how are they going to receive it? So once I told everyone, it was a bit like, oh, I don't know what I had to worry about after all that. So it definitely enabled me to be completely myself around the team, and we've obviously gone on from strength to strength, really, as a club and a community from that.
Is there anything more that you think could be done, just generally speaking? I've not got anything in mind, but just in terms of making football feel inclusive, I guess you must have thoughts on it yourself.
I think training and education is a big factor. There's a lot of grassroots volunteers who won't have been through my journey and won't necessarily know anyone directly who's been through that journey. So educating people on that is hugely important. I know that Kick It Out do an incredible amount of work in that space. I think just being aware of language around, particularly young people who you influence around, what you say and what you do and your actions. So I think people can do a lot by doing a little, by changing how you speak, certain words, take them out your vocabulary that are potentially derogatory. I think those little tweaks can go a long way.
I agree with that, even just speaking from a kind of racial standpoint. I think as soon as, in particular, children are aware of language and maybe the reasons why they shouldn't use it, and you give them that education and that knowledge, it is almost that trigger point if they think before they speak, especially when they know that that's one word that could create a whole world of pain for somebody else. Whereas I think maybe in a previous life, kids wouldn't be that bothered and they wouldn't even be aware of it because nobody's told them that information. So I think we definitely have come on a journey that's getting better.
Yeah.
But as with anything, nothing's ever perfect, right? And you've still got some distance to go.
For sure. So we've already touched upon your time at Cheshire FA and the fact you were there for, according to your LinkedIn profile, 6 years and 8 months. That's a lot of time to give your experience of. But I'm just wondering what you learned from that spell, because you didn't just go in at Deputy CEO, you worked up the ranks. So tell us about that time of your life.
Yeah, I suppose, obviously I worked in education for 6.5, 7 years. And then, I was keen to work in football, always had that ambition of wanting to work in football. And as we know within the game, it's sometimes who you know and getting that opportunity. I knew the CEO at the time, Steve, and I'd had a conversation and an opportunity came up, and I just jumped at it. It was, going in at the bottom level, I was going in as an administrator, working on reception, supporting with safeguarding, but it was actually the best thing that could have happened, because I was answering the phone that much and answering so many different queries on so many different systems that it taught me a lot in about probably I'd say a 12-month period. So it was the year before the COVID lockdown. So then when it came to that COVID period, and obviously sport stopped, and we had to unfortunately furlough a number of staff, I'd sort of built up a real strong knowledge across the business that was then able to be utilised throughout the COVID period. So I was actually working through that period, and ended up becoming business support manager, and then business development manager, and then head of business operations and strategy. So it sort of grew with responsibilities with each progression. But it was a absolutely amazing experience. Loved my time at Cheshire FA. And I only left because an opportunity came up that was too good to say no to, really. But I loved my time there. Loved working with the grassroots volunteers, organising things like, cup finals and awards evenings and all those things that, you're actually in and around all those brilliant people was really special. I think linking to that, one of the things that was my responsibility was around serving those grassroots volunteers and the customer excellence side. So we'd had difficulties reputationally around, we could never get hold of Cheshire FA. That was one of the things when I started, and it was then my responsibility. So we worked really hard to change that. We got up to a point of having a 97% call answer rate. Emails had gone from having 1,000 in our mailboxes down to a much more smooth contact form. And things like that just we've spoke about before, about making life easier for grassroots volunteers. That was one of the things that was my driving force, really, was that passion for helping grassroots volunteers.
So So whenever I speak to clubs, and I obviously know it from a county perspective because I've spoken with you on a number of times and lots of others as well, and the same with leagues too, but the clubs have one mentality, and I think it's something that I'm really keen to try and change, which is they say, the county don't really help us that much. They only get in touch with us when they issue us a fine, which obviously now is centralised, but it still comes through you. And so outside of that, we don't really have any contact with the county. I think it's probably a good opportunity to almost explain how much work you guys actually do that maybe goes unseen, but in a way is almost lobbying the FA at times on behalf of those volunteers that you serve. And it's kind of what they're blind to. And it's similar to what the parents are blind to with the club volunteers and what the clubs are blind to from a county perspective. But maybe if we just talk on that for a couple of minutes, like what does the county actually do?
Big question for a few minutes.
No pressure. So I think the first thing, one of the things that was eye-opening for me was when I started working at the County FA, was the amount of football development work that goes on. So I think being totally new to it at that point, whilst I was a grassroots volunteer, I maybe didn't have any idea as to the scale of the number of clubs we served, the number of volunteers we served. So I suppose, putting you in the picture, we'd have over 300 clubs across the county. We'd have over 10,000 teams. We'd have over 50,000 stakeholders, whether that be players, match officials, coaches, volunteers. So the numbers are huge. And when you look on the webs, for example, the Cheshire FA website, and look at the staff team, it's quite a small team for serving that many people. So there's so many things that the county does in terms of project delivery. So whether that be supporting girls football with Wildcats development centres, whether it be through refereeing, obviously referee development. So not only, why aren't we running loads of referee courses? Well, actually, we have to support the referees who have done a referee course in terms of retaining them and developing them and progressing them. So that's an incredible amount of work for what is largely one person. You've then got facility development, so supporting with the growth of grass pitches and 3G pitches and the development of that side of things. You've then got obviously the business operations, which was more my side of things, in making sure that the county is run properly in a well-governed way. So the county does do an incredible amount of work, and I can certainly say from being behind the scenes at Cheshire FA, everyone was fully committed to their job. Absolutely loved working for the County FA, loved serving those grassroots volunteers, and that was something that we were all hugely passionate about. I think, understandably, a club or a league contacts a County FA, their priority is their query. Sometimes we may have had 50 queries that morning.
Especially on a Monday after a weekend of games.
And you do have to prioritise, but that's not to say that they aren't all important, which they definitely are.
Is it just the size of the grassroots football ecosystem, or is it a bit more fragmented than it should be? Obviously, you've got county FAs who are their own bodies, the leagues who are their own bodies, you've got clubs, and within that, the clubs, you've got loads of different teams. Can we do anything more to connect the system up a bit better, or is it just grassroots football is absolutely massive. And ultimately, like you said, at the top of the sort of local game is the County FA, who are, they don't have huge numbers of staff. There's no staff surplus. They're all running at capacity.
Yeah. I think County FAs are hugely important to the local intel on the grassroots game in that specific area. So that's a hugely important part. I know, from working at Cheshire, the football development team were very much aware of all the key information in the local area, which would be more difficult for a national body to be aware of as such. So that flow of information is really important. I think the technology side is something that's always developing. And I know you guys have done some brilliant work in trying to create a product and a system that eases the burden on grassroots volunteers, because the more efficient we can make things, the more people have got time-wise to actually do the developing of football. Because quite often we are bogged down in the administration side, where if we can make that a lot smoother and a lot quicker, then people can focus on the development aspect.
One thing that was clear to me, like doing a bit of research about you, is that you've always done well on the sort of funding and sponsorship side of things. Obviously, business development manager at Cheshire, and it's going to be part of your role with the strategy implementation for your league.
And this for now is part of the key part of it, isn't it?
Yeah. So I think from speaking to grassroots volunteers, from one of our first guests that we had on here, Wes from Kirkham Juniors, it goes back to sort of the mentality at grassroots level is often sponsorship is a donation, and maybe not seeing it as, a valuable
asset
to a local business or something like that. I was wondering if we could get your perspective on sponsorship at grassroots level and any advice you would have for people in grassroots who, everyone's in the same boat. They're trying to fund their team, trying to fund kids and people playing football.
Yeah, I think it's probably similar to what we spoke about before about the values and ethos of the organisation. So as a club, it's really important to look for companies and organisations to work with who've got the same values as you, because football can do so much more than just provide someone an opportunity to play. It's such a big community. It's an opportunity to build relationships, lifelong friendships, develop so many different skills that are can be transformed into your later career. So I think the key is, and I've always had that mentality of, I could go out and have loads of conversations with loads of companies and just try and get loads of cash, but it's like, what about the activation side of that partnership? So actually working with companies where you can do more, so for example, if football is quite heavily linked to sort of well-being, so working with companies who have an interest in well-being, whether that be physical well-being or mental well-being, would be a real positive opportunity, I think, because they might have expertise that can support, whether that be a club or a league, but vice versa, that they're able to display the impact of their investment directly in what's going on within the game.
It's really interesting, actually. So I was watching a video, I think it was on LinkedIn, from Gary Neville, and it was talking about how he speaks to sponsors that want to sponsor the overlap. And he was essentially saying that he will jump on a call with that company and essentially understand, what are you trying to activate? What do you need to make this deal work? And he said, because then immediately you can chat with them, because at the end of the day, the talent, so to speak, are the people bringing it to life. And if you understand that from the beginning and okay, well, this is what they need, this is what we need, we're winning, it makes every conversation easier. Whereas as soon as it's, oh, we need this, okay, well, we know we won't be able to give that, but we're just going to take the cash and accept it, which at grassroots football, granted, is probably what is happening, let's be totally fair. Then I think actually that creates this environment where people see it as a good investment, a positive investment. And I spoke previously about the way in which we communicate about it, and essentially positioning it as, this is impacting your local community. And when they think or they need a service or product or whatever it may be in the future, you're going to be at the forefront of their mind because they've had a positive experience through football with you. And I think if we start to use that kind of terminology and we really take people on that journey, it's not something that will change overnight. But I think very quickly, the value of grassroots football will just massively increase.
100%.
Yeah. So I think it's something that clubs need work with, and there's some amazing companies that are really helping, like educate clubs or give them templates or whatever it might be. But I think the more we can always give people the right language, the right information, the right data that also powers that local intel, I think we're onto an absolute winner. And that applies to whether it's ISFA or whether it's a local club.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's the whole way through the game.
And it does create a lot of goodwill within the club itself.
Of course, yeah.
One of our recent guests was James from Linthwaite FC, and we take pictures with the guests at the end of the show, so we can post them on our socials as well. And he was like, actually, one sec, can I just take my quarter zip off because I want to get the sponsor in on the shirt underneath? And he's like very conscious of the fact that they've been given something from a local company and it's not just a donation. Like, he wants to give something back.
Yeah.
So yeah, it creates a lot of goodwill within the actual organisation.
And it's those little things that matter, right? Because you know that you're not going to have this endless stream of what is deemed to be a handout. And so actually, if you can be seen to be treating them well and you're kind of going above and beyond to give them every opportunity physically possible, then I think that's where you can start to win. But I think what we really need to do is get to a point where there are digital assets. Because I think as soon as you can provide digital assets where you can track reach, you can track impressions, you can drive those numbers like really far north, then I think suddenly grassroots football will be in a wildly different position.
Yeah.
Because they already have their on-field stuff and they got that down to a T. Front of shirt, end of season awards, whatever it might be. But if you can give them a digital platform where you know that reach is going to scale and is going to increase over time, and the entire platform is built around making sure that those numbers are going up, you're in an amazing place to be able to essentially grow the entire commercial arm of the business.
Yeah. And then it's less about going to a sponsor and going, oh, well, we just sort of have like this size club and there might be this many eyeballs. Whereas you can actually go to the sponsor and go, we've got all of like this exact amount.
And if that then allows, memberships to come down, so we're giving more opportunities to more children or people, generally speaking, actually, that can play more football, that might come from lower socioeconomic backgrounds, that need as much help as possible, especially in a time like now where the cost of living is just going up and up and up. I think you've almost cracked a winning formula there. And really, it's about looking at what happens at the professional side of football where players are paid to play. And yet there's a certain point in the pyramid where we just flip it. And we go, oh, no, we all need to pay to play. And I look at it and I'm like, how did that ever happen? And the answer is what we've just mentioned. It's hard to trace all this stuff. So it's very difficult to get those commercial deals over the line. But I think we need to get to a point where there's at least a little bit more of a tilt back in the direction of this is an asset, yet it's not valued as the same as the Premier League, which is going out to billions and billions of people, but it's going out to a specific community of very, very warm and engaged people in that local area that are probably the exact market that you're trying to target through flyering or whatever else it might be. I think that's where we want to get to, I think.
Yeah. Social media is quite interesting at the moment, I think. I'm not sure if you're on TikTok, Craig, but I was speaking earlier with someone about a grassroots football club called Thorpe United Sundays, and they basically do vlogs for their games and put them on TikTok, and they get a couple of thousand likes. And on TikTok, if you've got over 10,000 followers, you make money off your videos, and you can actually make decent money. I would not be surprised if they're like funding a large portion of their kits, subs, anything like that through TikTok.
Just gonna set that TikTok account.
Do you find with this because you stream the games, don't you, onto YouTube?
Onto YouTube, yeah.
Do you find that being quite a successful mechanism of just getting brands, like getting eyeballs, basically, or is it more of an engagement kind of platform?
A little bit of both. I think it's a real opportunity to showcase, obviously, our prime competitions, but also, to showcase from an investment point of view that the reach that we're able to get. But now it's a really good shout about TikTok, because I think there's a couple of teams in our league who do something along those lines, and if you can get yourself in a strong following, it could be really game changing.
And even if it's not the biggest following, if you've got an engaged following now, the value in your like brand deals could be huge, because you'd rather have an engaged audience of 10,000 people than an unengaged or disengaged rather audience of 1 million people, because brands will want followers or viewers who are likely to be influenced by the people who are displaying their products. So grassroots football, the people within grassroots football are fanatical, they're passionate about it, and there's a sort of untapped audience there. And I think Thorpe United Sundays, and then there's there's a grassroots footballer from down south. I think he's called like AB. Not sure if you've seen him, but he wears a mic during his Sunday League game.
Oh, I think I have seen
He's
this
got
guy.
like 200,000 followers, and like people feel like they know him because you get to know his personality.
His quips during the game are quite
Yeah,
funny.
he's very funny. But I mean, it's quite mad because social media nowadays is very saturated and it's hard to do well. It's hard to develop an audience. But if you hit that winning formula and you find your audience, I mean, it's a great source of funding for grassroots.
Yeah.
Do you find it difficult with this? Because obviously with ISFA, it's a big organisation in terms of the people that you serve. Independent schools are generally people from maybe a slightly different demographic to the rest of grassroots. Do you find even that is quite hard to find the right people to partner with? Or is it much easier than the previous experiences that you've had in football with the ridiculous number of hats that you've worn across the game?
I'd say it's probably quite similar, to be honest. As you say, it's a different demographic, a different market. I think from my perspective, it's the same principles apply in terms of trying to work with organisations who want to make a difference. So obviously the slight nuance with this is it supporting young people and developing young people. So as an organisation, we at ISFA are looking to grow in terms of our membership offer. So broaden not just schools joining us and playing in a cup competition or a tournament. It's what could we offer that's more wide-ranging, that helps with enrichment, helps with developing young people. Those things come from my sort of passion of working in education before. So it's the same principle really of looking for companies, probably on a slightly bigger scale, who are looking to support the development of young people and also potentially have a vested interest within the education sector.
Yeah. That's amazing. How's it going?
Yeah.
Dare I ask?
So tell me about ISFA then, because so it's the Independent Schools Football Association.
Yeah.
Acts slightly differently, I'm guessing, to Cheshire FA, as an example. Tell us a little bit about what it is. Yeah,
so took over as CEO in October last year, taking on the role from an incredible man called Mark Dixon, who'd grown ISFA from the bottom up over the last 20 years, had done an incredible job. Wow. I'm delighted Mark is still supporting me in the background and is a member of our board. So obviously a really exciting opportunity when that came up. It sort of blends my two passions really of developing young people and football. And we're the national governing body for independent schools. We've got over 360 member schools who are members of ISFA, which equates to, I think on our last count was over 20,000 teams across the country. So whether that's playing small-sided house football or whether that's playing 9-a-side, 11-a-side, competitive, all that sort of thing. So the reach is huge, and we estimate around 100,000 players, young people playing football. So yeah, we offer a range of national cup competitions across the ages of under 11 up to under 18. We also run a prestigious representative team programme, which schools are invited to nominate the best players from across the country to trials, and then we select them, and we have a representative team that plays in national fixtures or against Premier League academies, Football League academies, that sort of thing, and they have a sort of an international camp. And then once they've played an international fixture, they'll be awarded with a cap as they finish. So it's.
I didn't quite get the cap. I didn't get.
Did you go to trial?
I got to the rep team. Yeah.
Oh, right. Standard must have been a bit lower back then.
What can I say?
Who decides the
marauding left back?
Okay, we get it. You were good.
I was left back as well.
Oh, really?
On the bench.
So. Who picks it? Like, are you doing like a bit of an Abramovich situation, like getting involved in the selection as well, or what?
No, so the football side is headed up by our head of football operations, Ian. Business operations headed up by Sarah, and then we've got Katie and Mitchell who also support the football development side. So we're a very small staff team. We are. located around the country, so it is a sort of a working from home role, which is obviously different to what I've been used to in previous roles. But it's also been a nice challenge in terms of getting around the country and seeing football played at all different age groups, different levels, different facilities. We've recently had some of our national cup finals, which has been a great experience, and similar to when I worked at Cheshire FA, and you get to cup final season, it's just day after day of cup finals. But when you see the smiles on people's faces as they walk out of the tunnel and they've got the camera on them and they're lining up like, as if it's a Champions League game, you got the music in the stadiums, all those things, and it that aspect is so rewarding to see. That is why we do what we do, and the energy that goes in from, as I say, such a small team, but a team that does a fantastic job in delivering so much.
Apologies for the fixation on the selection, but I just wonder why Rohan. No, I just wonder. I think in the last 10 years, and I know this isn't necessarily within your scope, but hopefully you've got a bit of insight on it. In the last 10 years, I think there's been a shift in the modern professional game. In the Premier League, from just technical ability to also the personalities and the characters within a dressing room. When the selection is made for the representative team, is there that sort of discussion as well about the type of people that are involved?
Yeah, so I think prior to my time at ISFA, we have a representative committee that it involves all the coaches of the rep teams, along with Ian and members of our wider board, and they set about creating an ISFA philosophy around how they wanted the football to be played, the characteristics involved. So it definitely is more than just technical ability. There are other factors as to the selection that's made.
Yeah. Okay.
The coaching was pretty crazy, though, I will say. Like the little nuggets of information that you were given on a pitch were just wildly different to what you would get in a school football team, for example. And you were just given these little nuggets, and you were almost expected to be able to consume them and immediately implement them, which is obviously what like professional footballers and academy players would be doing.
Yeah.
So it's that massive jump up as well for a football player, that you think you're flying because you're in your school first or whatever it might be, and you join that team, and it is quite humbling to just show you how big that gap really is.
That's the best, isn't it?
Yeah, so it's amazing. The standard of players in that team is insane.
Going back to something that is more your role, I'm just thinking about your sort of career so far in football, and you've, as we've already mentioned, you've basically done everything. But you started off like just yourself, playing, refereeing. You've been involved in a local club, a local league, a local county FA. This role is unique because it's also national as well, and it's all over the country. As you mentioned, you've got a relatively small team. How challenging is that in terms of managing people all over the country and developing that ISFA philosophy off the pitch as well? We've spoken about fragmentation in local football. How do you manage to sort of stay on top of that in a national county FA, essentially?
Yeah, it's been eye-opening from my perspective. Obviously, I expected there to be a change, not going into an office environment 4 or 5 days a week. A lot of the communication we'll have will be virtual, other than face-to-face team meetings every so often and meeting at events that we're running. I think the key is that within that communication is making sure that everyone feels part of a team. For me, it's culture's such a big thing. People feeling supported. And I suppose whether that's been in my professional career or as a football manager as such, making people feel part of a family, making people feel part of a family environment is hugely important. And I'm really pleased that, in the six or so months that I've been in post, built really strong relationships with all of the staff team and our board and our wider community. And hopefully that will only continue to strengthen as we move forward. But I think having that connection with people is vital, really.
You've definitely got that from working with you for a while now, actually. If I was to say then, let's say you get to, at some point in the future, you're coming towards the end of your ISFA journey and you want to look
He's
back
only
on
just
it.
Started.
I know, but let's put him on the spot.
Yeah.
And you want to look back on it and say, there were 3 goals that you wanted to set yourself when you started. That's why.
Nice.
And you want to look back and say, yeah, I achieved them. Off the top of your head, putting you on the spot, what would be those 3 big goals that you want to try and tackle?
I think the first one is making sure that the organisation has good governance. So I think that's the foundation of any good sporting organisation is having that governance that underpins everything you do, doing things properly and professionally, following process. So that would be the first one. I think participation growth, being able to evidence that some fresh ideas and initiatives that we're looking to do have had a meaningful impact. We're always looking for encouraging more people to play football. One of the things we're finding is that football within the independent sector and the interest in it is growing. So we really want to maximise that opportunity to encourage people of all ages, all abilities to play football, and that will definitely be something I would judge myself on once I'm finished. And I think the third one is creating a more inclusive organisation. So one of the things that has come on the back of our work around governance has been the recent launch of our Inclusion Advisory Board, which, again, linking back to my own personal journey, is creating an environment that everyone wants to be a part of and feels welcome is hugely important.
Especially in schools.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Critical.
Yeah, 100%. We're at such a, we're working with people of such a key age in their life. So the fact that we've been able to create an inclusion advisory board with such a wide ranging skill set and the backgrounds of the individuals involved is fantastic. That will help to shape making ISFA more inclusive in the long term, and making sure that everyone is welcome to play football in independent schools.
Guess to sort of finish off, you have, as I already mentioned, sat in more seats in grassroots football than I think anyone I've met, at least. What's one thing you'd change about grassroots football? If you had a magic wand, could do anything you want with it, what would you change?
I think it would be behaviour within the game, giving people that perspective of, particularly around referees, having been on both sides, it would be great if people respected referees more and give referees the opportunity to make mistakes in a safe environment, the same as a player giving the ball away or a striker missing a chance. Referees are going to make mistakes. We've been keen, particularly through my work with the Liverpool Football League, to create a safe space for referees to develop and to learn. And the only way they're going to learn is by being on the pitch. But if they're going to be on the pitch, they need to not be abused.
Yeah.
So it's a sort of full circle, really. So I think just taking a step back and allowing people the opportunity to referee the game in peace. They're there to enjoy their Saturday the same as everyone else. And that's one thing I've instilled in my own team and within our league, is that referees are a valuable part of that community. And if we can change those elements of behaviour, it will have such a big impact on not only referees, but actually players wanting to play, creating an environment where players want to turn up and play. I think a lot of players probably do walk away from the game because of the atmosphere that's created on the pitch.
Yeah.
It's a recreational activity. We should be able to turn up and enjoy our football.
Are there any highlights that stand out to you over your time, not working in grassroots football, because that's professional, like you just enjoy it as a job, but in terms of all the hours you've put in as a volunteer? You've already mentioned the cup wins with your team. What stands out to you is like moments that make it all worth it?
Yeah, I think those cup wins were brilliant. I think we had one in 2024, which was probably more poignant insofar as Reg, who I mentioned earlier, was quite seriously ill during that season, and he gave absolutely everything to be as many games as he possibly could. We managed to get to the Centenary Trophy final in the league, and we won the cup. A brilliant day, a memorable day, and I'll never forget. Connor and Jake, our captain and vice captain, invited Reg up to lift the trophy with Connor, and we've still got the photos and the videos of that day. And sadly, we lost Reg last year. But I know that was such a proud moment for him, a culmination of so many years of effort that we were able to sort of work together and lift that trophy was really special. So that probably stands out as one of my sort of favourite moments. I think that one other moment, I suppose, is just the developments of the league that are run. We were the Liverpool Old Boys Amateur League, and I got involved in that in 2017. I was the youngest person on the committee by quite some distance. And it was about trying to implement some changes, but doing it in a respectful way, earning people's trust, not going in like a bull in a china shop. It's about, these people have given an incredible amount of years and they have a way of working. And eventually we came to the same conclusion that the stuff that I was trying to implement was a positive development for the league. And it was really special. Took over the role of secretary from Alan Brown, who'd done the role for nearly 50 years. And had done an incredible job. And one of the things I was keen to do was that his legacy would live on. Yeah. And that's what we've been able to do. We got to the centenary of the league in 2023. We celebrated that with a gala dinner, and we inducted people into a Hall of Fame, which was a great way of being able to recognise their contributions. And we had some brilliant cup finals, and then we set about evolving the league into a bit more of a modern name, Liverpool Football League, which the members all voted in favour of, which was great. And it's probably more in keeping with what our ambitions are as a league moving forward. Delighted to have Sean Pilo on board now, who's also head of league ops. I'm head of league strategy, and working really well together with our league management committee as a collective, working closely with our member clubs and referees, because we serve them and how they want the league run. But being able to change the Liverpool Football League means, we've been able to bring on board attracting female referees to the league, which has been a great development. Yeah.
Old Boys Amateur League probably
doesn't really sing to that. No, absolutely not. So that's been brilliant. Also looking at our provision moving forward, whether that be to grow within the veterans game, whether that grow in youth football, in women and girls football, everything's now on the table because of the brand that we've created, and obviously we'll work closely with Liverpool County FA on that moving forward. But I would say those are probably my two key highlights, I would say.
Brilliant. Well, I'm sure there are plenty more to come. Look forward to following your journey with ISFA as well. And you just do so much. If I was to list everything we look forward to seeing, I think we should have another 20.
Thank you for everything you do for grassroots football. I think is definitely the tone. Yeah,
it's incredible, the level of commitment. Obviously, it's professional, but also you still do all the voluntary stuff, which grassroots football relies on. So thanks very much, and thank you very much for your time today.
It's a pleasure. Thank you for the invite. Thank you.
Thank you very much for listening to the Grassroots Hotline. Remember to like and subscribe, and we will see you next time.